before the mass tourism, and I remember getting off the plane and being driven by a little what they call a BMO, which was a kind of an open taxi, and we dropped me off at the little family place where I was going to stay, and there was bats flying around and sunset and coconut palms and little old men sitting in bamboo benches playing chess, and I was just blown away by
Did you go by yourself?
I did, yeah, at the beginning, and then a friend of mine came over a few weeks later.
So a Kiwi friend?
Yeah, a Kiwi friend, yeah. And we travelled, after that, together up to Bangkok, and yeah, it was cool.
Were you doing some work as well, or you were on a mission to surf and that was the thing?
No, I'd worked painting houses after I finished university, and worked painting houses for 6 months and saved
the money.
I think it was $800 for a air ticket to London.
Wow.
With 2 stopovers, and the first one was Bali and the second one was Bangkok. But I didn't fly between Bali and Bangkok. We went overland. So yeah, but the one of the problems I remember then was, I think there was a war in Egypt and Israel. There was I can't remember what the war was called, but there was a war, and the British pound lost like 25% of its value in about a week. So when I got to London, all the money that I'd sent there devalued a lot. Yeah, so stuff like that happens.
What did you study? You said that you finished university and then you went on a mission.
Yeah, I studied. I did a Bachelor of Commerce, which was
of what? I'm sorry.
Bachelor of Commerce. It was like accounting and economics and stuff like that.
Oh wow! I didn't see that coming.
No, I wish
you didn't see that coming either.
Had to.
Was it a bit of pressure?
It wasn't me, It was like when I left school, I didn't really have any, future ambitions at all. And even 3 weeks before university started, I hadn't even sort of thought about what I was going to do. And my father said, "What are you going to do?" And I said, "Well, I don't know." So he took me next door to the to this guy who was he was a professor of accountancy at Auckland University, and both my cousins were doing Bachelor of Commerce. So, in those days, in that society, that you're either an accountant or a lawyer or a doctor, or because I came from a professional background, so all my family were kind of professionals, and I said, "Oh, come on, okay, whatever."
Okay, commerce, why not?
Yeah, commerce, why not? And I totally failed my first year because, if you go to commercial law 1 lectures and the guy's reading out of his textbook that he wrote, and he's just reading it word for word, and you've got to sit there and listen to it, and I could have taken it home and read it, or I could have taken it to the beach and gone surfing and read it between surfs, You just think, why am I doing this?
Why am I doing? Yeah.
But anyway, after the first year, which I failed, I thought, well, either I've got to stop this or actually do it. And by chance, I got mates with and flatmates with some guys from Gisborne who were surfers too. And my friend John, he was into it, and he studied like hard, and he helped me understand accounting, which to me seemed totally illogical. And I don't have the kind of mind that can go from a transaction like selling a ballpoint pen and putting it in the books as a sale, and then as cash and bank, and then you've got to take that right through the accounts, and it comes out at the end to the balance sheet, and everything has got a balance to the last cent at the end. And my mind was, thinking
waves.
About surfing.
Different balance, right? You were thinking about a different balance.
Yeah, and so I could never be a lawyer. All my clients would be found guilty for sure.
Let's go for a surf first and see what happens after that.
Yeah. So,
but you finished.
But I actually did finish it. Yeah. But I took a lot of subjects which were not really business related. I took anthropology, which was quite interesting, learning about dinosaurs and stuff like that, and social anthropology, which was learning about other cultures, and psychology was good. That was interesting. Yeah. Even industrial psychology, how they change the colours of factories to make the workers work harder and stuff.
Great. Yeah. Okay, so now I'm starting to put all the parts together. So from that, surf, that's the thing. That's what I'm gonna do. Painting houses, but just before we go there, how did you develop that passion to the water? Because you said your family very professional. Everybody was doing the right, like following the classic.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we got a job, we got a career. Were they also always involved?
Yeah. We were Kiwis, like Kiwis are just into boats, and I think just about every second Kiwi's got a boat.
Yeah.
So my dad and all my uncles, my grandfather was a really good trout fisherman, and he taught all his kids to trout fish. So when I was like 3, I was on the lake with a trout rod in my hand, and then my dad had a boat, and we used to go up to the Bay of Islands for holidays. There was 5 dentist families, and we all used to camp on this awesome little bit of land and just go out to deep sea fishing, and it just all happened like that. So I was born with the sea.
It's in the blood.
Yeah, it's in the blood.
Right. And then, okay, so now we're there. Now we're in the okay, now I'm going to travel. Now I'm going to do my thing.
Yeah.
Just give me a little bit of context of the era of the 70s, because everybody talks about the 70s.
Amazing. The 70s they were an amazing time. So after Bali, my friend Nigel,
Nigel the guitar? No.
Not that Nigel, another Nigel, yeah. We went overland to Bangkok, and we got to Bangkok, and that was an eye-opener. It was just at the end, pretty much at the end of the Vietnam War, and also went up to Laos. And when I was in Laos, in Vientiane, the capital, it was there wasn't war, but there was signs of war, because we were staying in a hotel, and in our hotel there were government soldiers, and in the hotel across the road there were communist soldiers, and it was a ceasefire. It was a peaceful sort of era, but then, in the night you'd hear a couple of explosions way off in the jungle somewhere, and you think, I hope they don't start the war again while we're in this hotel.
Wow.
But it was, and the Bangkok was actually used as a R&R place for American soldiers during the Vietnam War, and there was still a lot of ex-soldiers there. There was ex-soldiers there still living in Thailand, and I remember meeting one guy, this big Negro guy, who was the boyfriend of one of the Kiwi girls that we knew up in Bangkok. And what was his name? Cam, I can't remember. But we started chatting with him, and he was actually a CIA operative who was there to stop the drug dealing, because the heroin and all the hard drugs up there were still quite, they were devastating people. And I remember meeting one American ex-GI who was living in a water tower in Thailand because he couldn't afford accommodation because he was hooked on opium. And so it was, the East during that time was a bit of a lottery on who survived and who didn't. I remember one Kiwi guy and meeting him, and I said, "Oh, how are you going?" And he said, "Oh, well, I'm on my OE, but I've been here for 3 months, and now I've got to go back home because he spent all his money on women and drugs." So so it was kind of like that a little bit.
And then, how many years did you say? 3 years that you were?
After that, after Bangkok, Nigel and I had heard about these fabulous white Christmases in England. And we had our tickets to England, so we thought, let's, we'd had 6 months in the East, so let's go to England and have a white Christmas. Yeah, we had no surf in Bangkok to keep us there, so we hopped on a plane and landed in grey London, and thinking, the snow's got to come soon. The snow's got to come soon. But it never came.
It never came.
No, it was just grey.
So you were after the sports as well, like to do some.
Skiing
or no, just to
really.
enjoy.
I just wanted to hear. I just wanted to see a white Christmas. My grandmother who'd never been to England. She called England home because in that generation, like England was home basically for colonized Kiwis.
How long did you spend in England for at that time?
At that time, we got out of there as quickly as we could.
No grey ass.
No, we got to get out of here. Yeah, so we stayed in a flat for, I can't remember, maybe a few weeks, and we got 7 of us together, and we bought a van, and we got our boards, and we started off from Morocco. So we travelled for, I think it was 3 days non-stop, and we got to Morocco, and we had to bribe our way into Morocco because we had long hair. Yeah, I don't know if you still have to, but
because of the long hair.
Yeah, we had long hair, and we were surfers and just layabouts really. So the guy, and the customs officers, they knew. They said, well, oh, I'm sorry, we can't. So we'd hand the passport over with a bit of money, and they said, oh, okay, boys.
Okay.
Have a good time in Morocco.
Enjoy. Yeah.
So we got down to Morocco, and we drove south to a beach called Tarazout, which is near Agadir in the south, where the good surf was. So we stayed on the beach there for 3 months.
For 3 months. Well, you had the abilities to go fishing, to do your thing, and enjoy life. Why not? 7 guys.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, it was awesome. And we just camped on the beach, and there was bonfires every night, and the Moroccans would come down with the drums, and we'd just drum and get out of it a bit and just have good time.
Nice.
Yeah.
What other countries around there? What other places did you go to that you faced something that it was unfamiliar? They were like, okay, this is a different lifestyle. This is a different cultural background here. Well,
Morocco for a start off was totally different. It was Muslim for a start off, although the religion thing didn't really, like now, it probably would have more effect on us than it did then, because it didn't have an effect on us at all, actually. But there was one situation where one of the girls who came with us got together with a Moroccan guy, and she ended up going off to live with him, and briefly. So yeah, she was a musician, and she just wanted to play music, So, and this guy seemed like a really nice guy, and he probably was, but to have a European girlfriend, I think it was the first time he'd had that. And, of course, the culture's different. And so Wanda was her name, and she said to him, well, I want to go down to the cafes and play some music. She said, oh, no, I'd want you to stay home. And so she wasn't allowed out of the house when he wasn't there. So that kind of cultural kind of difference. And one day we were down the beach, and she ran up and said, quick, get me out of here.
Open the van. The van.
Shit. Let me in, So
wow.
So but the Moroccans were just awesome. Just the whole cultures it was really cool. We had tagine dinners every night on the beach. We'd have bonfire, and do you know what tagine is? It's a cooking pot, which has got a conical lid, and you just put layers of food, and you start off on the bottom with the things that take longer to cook. And then you just put it on the fire, and it just all the juice goes up, and then you have this beautiful Moroccan bread, and
nice.
then you dip it in, and just awesome. So it was a very decadent lifestyle in those days.
How long did that last for? This thing of traveling before you went back to New Zealand and kind of like started doing something a bit more settled. Oh no, that never happened.
That hasn't happened yet.
Yes.
No, yeah, I went back to London and got a job as an accountant.
You finally made use of a little bit of your skills.
Yeah, so that was good, but I didn't really know what I was doing.
Did you have to wear a suit?
Yeah.
Can see that happening, man. Honestly, with all the respect.
Yeah, thank you.
Can see it happening. I think it's a compliment.
Yeah, thank you.
For sure. It's definitely a compliment.
Yeah, I remember at university when I was studying accountancy, and I'd walk down to Queen Street, and I'd think, see all the accountants and lawyers wandering around the seats, and I thought, wow, that's never going to be me. But in England, you had to wear a tie when you're an accountant in a company,
Right.
even if you didn't know what you're doing.
How old were you at the time working as an accountant in England?
22 maybe.
Oh, okay. Young.
But it was good, yeah. When I knew what I was doing, it was good. But when I didn't know what I was doing...
Yeah.
Because we used to work for temporary, we were called temps. And you go to an agency that hired temps, which was a situation where the company would send you out to do some accounting work for a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever the job was. And after that, you went off to another company and did a short-term job. And I remember I got a job in this jewellery company, this little jewellery company. It was near Big Ben Clock Tower in London. And I know that because they had a bombing when I was there, and we were working away one day on this big explosion, and some of the Irish, I think the Irish terrorists or somebody had put a bomb in Big Ben. But these guys in this company, they'd been working there for years, and all the accounts were done in freehand, written. There was no computers, no typewriters or anything, and so I had to figure out these accounts, whether they were okay or not. And these guys,
Couldn't even understand the handwriting.
no, I couldn't hardly. And the workers were kind of a bit worried that I was there because I think they'd been pilfering stuff. And so one of them offered me a ring, said, "Oh, would you like this? This is nothing, just take this, And so I think there was a lot of dodgy stuff going on.
Yeah. Oh man, great. How was partying in London at the time? Do you remember going to gigs? Was that your kind of thing? Going out, enjoying live music, or
Yeah, live music. Yeah, that was all you could do in London for in the weekends. It was there was amazing shows. There was one. There was a day-long thing. I think it was the Reading Festival, or I can't remember which one it was because I went to quite a few. But this show had 10cc, Van Morrison, Allman Brothers, Doobie Brothers.
What?
I don't know if you know. You're probably too young to know these guys.
I know. Yeah, Allman Brothers. Woof.
Yeah, and they had they had about 10 top line bands, and you could just go there for I think it was overnight. You could camp actually, and for not much money, and you could just and there was a place called the Roundhouse in London, which was have you been to London?
No, I haven't.
It's still there, and it was a place which was round, and it's very old, and it was a place where bands played, and I remember going and seeing Ossie Bisa.
Ossie Bisa. Okay.
Yeah, you probably never heard of Ossie Bisa.
No, that one.
Well, it was African rock, sort of, pre-Bob Marley kind of, music. Yeah, Ossie Bisa. Have a listen to it sometime.
Okay, I will for sure. Right. Yeah, there's this thing with London, right? Like it's one of my biggest passions. It's ska genre, ska music. Yeah. And it had its roots there, with the white people and the black people getting together when the black people came to rebuild England in the post-war, and that beautiful music came out of that. So I haven't been to London, and a lot of people say, "Oh, it's great, it's not the best," and I'm like, well, I understand, but the culture must be just something amazing to go and experience, to be in those places where everything was happening pretty much, right?
Well, they colonized so many countries, the British. So you enslaved everybody.
True, hey. Truth
and
must be
so
told.
they couldn't refuse visas to a lot of people from those countries. So you go. I lived in one place in Acton where it was all Pakistani and Indian, and another place where there was lots of people from Jamaica and the West Indies, and other places where there was Aussies and Kiwis. So there's all these little mini settlements in London where all these different ethnic groups live, and it's an awesome place. Yeah.
Have you been to South, North, Central America? I've
never been to America except for Hawaii, and I don't know. It is part of America, but it's different.
How was surfing in Hawaii? Because there's this this
I
thing
know.
about Hawaii. How was it? How was the experience? Was it a like a dream? Was it something that you had? Like, I gotta go to Hawaii.
Something that I had to do. And
how old were you?
It was just after I came down here the second time in 1990, and I said to my boss, "Look, I'll start work for the language school, but I'm in winter. I'm going travelling again for a while." He said, "Yep, cool." So I went up to and I wanted to do some offshore sailing too. So I went up to the Pacific Islands and did some sailing between Fiji and Vanuatu and around that area. And then caught a plane to Hawaii, and thinking that, this is going to be good surf and blah, blah, blah. And got to Pipeline, the fabled Pipeline. And I looked at it, and it was dead flat, so I went snorkeling. And that was an experience, just seeing what those guys surf over. It's the coral and the rock, and it's just a hideous bottom. Right. And a lot of people have died there. And so that was good. I thought, I don't know if I'm going to surf here.
Yeah, I'm gonna enjoy the diving.
Yeah. Wow. So anyway, I got offered a job there as the in the backpackers, as the backpackers sort of supervisor type guy. And I thought, no, I don't think I'm going to be surfing Pipeline anyway, because my skill level wasn't up there. And anyway, if you try to paddle out and the locals don't want you out there, they just tell you to go in, and you do what you're told over there. Yeah. So anyway, I had some friends in Kauai, which is another island off Oahu. So I got on the plane, went to Kauai, and I got there, and a Kiwi girl who was working on a tour boat was just going back to New Zealand. Suddenly she had to leave, so they said, "Oh, do you want a job?" So I thought, "Oh, yeah, cool." So I got a job on a tour boat, and it was right on Honolulu Bay, which is, I don't know, people who've been to Kauai, is Honolulu Bay's a awesome surf break. And so I got a job there and stayed there for, I don't know how many months, maybe 2 or 3 months.
So you surfed more in Kauai than actually?
Yeah, I only surfed one day at Sunset Beach, which was manageable because it was small, and for sunset anyway. But Kauai was awesome. But yeah, there was a bit of a problem with sharks there. There was
right.
Yeah, there was a couple of attacks when I was there.
What were the most dangerous situation that you saw yourself in surfing? Or at least you were a bit like worried. You were like, "Ah, shit."
Probably when I just started, when I was really young, and it was at Te Auri Beach, and in Northland, and I got caught in a rip, and being a young novice surfer, I didn't really know how to get out of the rip, and I just kept on trying to swim to the beach. I'd lost my board, had gone onto the beach, and not thinking that I could have just paddled, swum sideways parallel to the beach and got out of the rip. And anyway, after 40 minutes of swimming and getting nowhere, another surfer came over and dragged me in, and so that was probably the most dangerous. I mean, there's been things like sharks and things like that, but I haven't been eaten yet.
Yeah.
Which is quite
Thank
good.
God, yes.
Yeah. But when I was in Hawaii, that time in Kauai, I went out surfing on a reef about 300 metres offshore and paddled out to it and just went. There was nobody else out there. It was a really small day. And then I came in and they said, "You shouldn't be out there." "Oh, why is that?" I said, the guy the day before had been attacked by a shark, and he hadn't been bitten himself, but his surfboard had like a very big chunk bitten out of it. And then I don't know, some of you might have heard about the young woman, what's her name? She's one of the top, I was just watching the other day on TV. Anyway, she got her arm bitten off in Kauai where we were surfing. She got her arm bitten off, and now she surfs in the World Surf League top.
Oh wow!
Women's top competition with one arm. amazing, amazing.
Wow, what the body can do, eh?
Oh, yeah, crazy. Yeah.
Did you have close friends who had incidents or just or passed while you're surfing and you were around, or not really? You were lucky to not see much.
Close friends? No, not really. When we were in Bali, there was we had to rescue a few people there, because Bali's really actually quite dangerous. Kuta Beach, where everybody stays, it's really a dangerous beach when you don't know where the rips are, and a lot of tourists die there actually every year.
Right.
But no, most of my friends survived actually, which is really good.
Did you get into teaching so you could be closer to the sea? Was it a planned move, or you always had this thing with becoming a teacher? And
no, it wasn't really to do with the sea. It was something in me that just, sometimes you feel something, you should do something. And I'd always felt, you should be a teacher, but I was a bit sort of anti-government and anti-sort of system in those days, and so I thought, no, I don't want to work for the government, but still this feeling sort of said in my blood, I suppose it was, like, you should be a teacher. So
it's about the others, it's about helping and supporting whatever.
I don't know whether it was about helping people.
Right.
I don't even know if I ever helped people with my teaching or not. I don't know.
You just made them more confused.
Yeah, I don't know. You just do. My philosophy, especially language teaching, was if the students are having fun, they'll be learning.
That's good.
And if I'm having fun, hopefully they'll be learning too.
Great. You mentioned being a little bit like against system and the system and how did that change, or like did you or just your ideas changed, or just the way that you were seeing things that changed? Like were you kind of like the kind of guy that would actually go against something, or it was more like ideologies that you were not accepting or not agreeing with the way that you would see the system? When was that those turning points, because a lot of people say, I was young, and you think you can change the world, you have a lot of those ideas, and then you kind of like you adapt, like, and I'm not sure if that's what happens. I think you just kind of like learn how to play the game. I don't know.
Yeah. When I was in London, I sort of had an enlightening moment, I suppose you could call it, and it just I thought, it was like I didn't have a choice, actually. I sort of stopped. I stopped drinking alcohol and stopped smoking weed and all the rest of it, and started doing yoga and started getting into that kind of side of life,
Was it because of a girlfriend?
No. Oh, was it?
Was it?
I think I'd already got rid of her.
Okay.
Or she got rid of me. Probably she got rid of me.
But that's good. You left the alcohol behind on that package.
Yeah, just suddenly. And I remember and I stopped eating meat. And I remember my last meat meal was, which I cooked actually, because I was the cook in we had this big old mansion house in the English countryside with 3 other Kiwis and an Australian, and we'd rented it. And it was a beautiful place, wonderful. And I remember cooking this rabbit, which we'd bought in the supermarket because you could buy rabbits over there, and cooking it with olives and, having this big, dinner around the fire. And I hadn't thought of stopping meat. And then suddenly just, I don't know what happened, but I just stopped everything and started getting into yoga. And so ended up in Sri Lanka and India doing yoga and, meditation, stuff like that. And then came back to New Zealand and landed in Auckland after 3 years away, and my parents were living in the eastern suburbs of Auckland, which was sort of affluent, although they weren't that affluent. They tried to be, but my dad was a terrible businessman, so he didn't succeed very well. But anyway, I for some reason I just had an aversion to. I didn't feel comfortable around affluence, and all. The friends that they were, their friends and family. Right. You kind of got pressure conform and go and get a job and get a mortgage and be married and be happily ever after and drive a sports car type thing.
You kind of like started to look from outside, eh? You had a different idea of what they were doing and the lifestyle.
Yeah, I couldn't be around the affluence and the habits that went along with it, like the drinking and the uppers and downers that were freely dispensed by the doctors in those days. And I thought, I got to get out of here. So my sister, who lived down in Kuatunu at the time, she sent me a ticket to come down and stay with them. So yeah, I did.
Did you shave your hair when you were in doing the Sri Lanka, India?
No,
I
didn't shave my hair. Stayed in a monastery in Sri Lanka for a while.
How long did you stay there for? Do you remember?
A few weeks. I can't remember how long. Maybe 3 weeks or 3 weeks or a month. I can't remember. But that was a very good experience, but quite hard because you had to. We were doing something called a Vipassana meditation, which is a Buddhist meditation.
Vipassana.
Yeah, Vipassana. A lot of people here will know what it is.
Yeah.
They have courses still, around here.
Is it the silent one? No.
I didn't do this totally silent one, but there was nobody to talk to anyway because I was staying in a little hut myself, and within the monastery compound, and I did 18 hours a day, 45 minutes sitting meditation and 45 minutes walking meditation, 18 hours a day and 1 hour for eating, and then. So that's 19. So we had, how much is that? 5 hours for sleeping. So I did that for however many weeks it was I stayed there.
Would you nap during some of those 45 minutes?
Not really, no. I didn't nap. Well, the walking one, you'd be in trouble if you napped anyway.
Magri.
But the sitting one was, you had to count your breath. And it was just in, out, 1, 2, 3, up to 10, and then start again at 1. And any thoughts that you had to label it, like it might have been anger, or thinking about your family, and you just label it and then get back to the counting. And even after all those weeks of doing it, I don't know if I got even once to 10 without having thoughts come in.
Wow.
So it taught you about your mind and how, it's like a TV screen, all these programs, all these little bits of stuff come in and all the thoughts come in and you get distracted and it teaches you you don't have to react to it. It sort of taught me that I can either, the thought can come in and I can either get angry about it or I can get happy about it or I can just let it go and, just let it go. So it was a very, very good experience, actually.
What other things were a bit surprising for you or different? Like, did you have a connection with nature when you were in the monastery? Like, did you have any?
Yes, mosquitoes.
Oh,
that was quite an interesting connection.
It's part of nature.
Yeah, we weren't allowed to kill anything, so you had to sit there and let them bite you. So that was interesting too. Just sitting and letting these mosquitoes bite you, but that was quite good because after a while the actual sensation of being bitten isn't that much of a problem, and you just concentrate on it and let it go. And now I don't get bitten. I very, very, very rarely get bitten by mosquitoes.
Immune.
It's like having a vaccine,
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, so that was good.
I remember
natural vaccine.
Yeah. Oh, I never heard of that. That's cool.
I don't know if it's happens to other people, but that happened to me.
Maybe they just realized, well, he's part of the team. Yeah, it's all good.
Yeah, we'll leave him alone after a while.
Yeah. I remember one of the best restaurants that I've been to was a Sri Lanka one in Auckland.
Yeah.
Yeah, loved the food.
Yeah. Was it hot?
Yeah.
Yeah, gosh.
It's nice. Not super or not ridiculous hot, but nice spices. Yeah. Beautiful flavors. I was like, okay.
I remember in Colombo, I used to go to I never went to big flash restaurants. I always went to the local stuff, you know.
Usually the best ones.
Yeah, and used to go and sit on this table, and they put a big banana leaf in front of you, and then rice on top of that. Then they'd bring round this little tray of different chilies and curries and stuff, and you'd put it on, and oh man, I'd lose about 2 kilos in sweat each time I ate there.
Different appreciation towards food, some of those countries when you go in. I think that's the coolest thing about traveling. Like you understand that people deal with normal things that everybody does, but very differently. You know, like having a shower, having a meal. You know, like sleeping. Like it really that's why they say that it opens your mind so much, right? You get to see other side of the thing. Yeah,
I had one interesting experience. I stayed in the YMCA there in Colombo, and my first day there, I walked out onto the balcony, and there were these old dudes there with some big old safari hats that they used to wear on safari. And I said, hi guys, where are you from? He said, oh, well, we're from Sri Lanka, but we're British. And these guys were like total full-on Sri Lankans, but they consider themselves to be British because they'd been part of the colonial rule in Sri Lanka by the British, and they were wonderful old guys.
Funny how it plays, eh?
Yeah, they had some good stories. Yeah, it was awesome. But I loved Sri Lanka.
Did you stay on that mindset for a long time after leaving Sri Lanka and India when you were in New Zealand? Because you're a very calm man, like you speak calmly. So I'm thinking, like, was it always like that, even when you were an accountant, you know, like, or was something that you developed, you worked on? And
I don't know how calm I was when I couldn't get the balance sheet to balance.
True, of course.
But it was easy if it was only 10 cents. You could just kind of change a figure or something.
Right.
You weren't supposed to, but you know. Otherwise, it would take you like another 3 days to find the 10 cents, and they'd have to pay you your salary for those 3 days. So it wasn't worth it. You know, I was just saving them money basically. No, I didn't say that.
Hard to be calm, eh? Wow.
No, I've been pretty calm. Anyway, I came back to New Zealand, and what happened? Oh, I stayed down in Kuatunu for a few months and worked building houses, painting houses, just doing that. And then a friend of mine called up and said, "Oh, do you want to come up to Waiheke and have a fishing boat together?" And I thought, a fishing boat. And having stopped eating meat, I was still eating fish because I didn't really, at the time I remember saying to myself, now, are you going to be a real vegetarian, or are you just going to cop out and still eat fish because you want to go fishing? So being kind of a selfish type of guy, you know, thinking about myself a lot, I thought, no, I don't want to give up fishing, so I'll eat fish. And anyway, I ended up going up to Waiheke and being a commercial fisherman for a while. I wasn't that calm on the fishing boat sometimes.
Oh, I was thinking about that. How do you see the way that it's going now, like with fishing getting out of control? You know, like people seem to abuse the source, if I can put it that way, because you come from a time, I would say, that the appreciation was different. Or nah? Nah.
The appreciation was the same, but there was just more of the resource, so you didn't notice it so much.
Right.
I remember my there was a story that my grandfather and his sons, there were 4 sons, so there were 5 of them, and they went fishing at Lake Rotoiti down by Rotorua. And at the batch that we used to stay at, my grandfather built a batch there in 1922, and we used to stay there every Christmas. And there was a sign on the wall saying 227 or whatever it was trout in 1 week with 5 rods. And I'm thinking, that's a lot of trout. That's I don't know how many each per day that was, but it's a lot. And I said to Dad, what did you do with them? Oh, we just buried them. And that was the kind of that was the kind of attitude in those days. There was no sort of thought of releasing, catch and release, or we just buried. Of course, they ate some. And then when we went up to the Bay of Islands for the other part of our holiday, there would be like they'd just net. I remember seeing half a gash bucket, half a big rubbish bucket full of whitebait, and like whitebait are like hundreds of dollars a kilo, and I said, what did you do with them? And they just use them for burley, for catching snapper, and there would be no some kind of consideration of conservation or of the resource or anything like that. And when I was commercial fishing, there was sometimes at night time we would hear a clanking and cranking of a boat with no lights, and these boats would be trawling their big nets right through the Motuhi Channel between Waiheke and Motuhi, right up into the Auckland Harbour, and scooping up the snapper that were spawning, and it was, so it's been happening for a long time.
Right.
Just now that because of all that, I mean, of course, the resource is getting less and less, and we've really got to start stopping taking so much from the sea, for sure.
Is there any care from our area for that? Do you hear about people in the Magri? Because this is a fishing place, right? This coastal area where we are. I think we just had one of the biggest competitions, or we were having last week, something like that.
Yeah, they did. They caught I don't know how many marlin, but lots and lots of marlin. I remember 19 in one day. But they tag and release. So I went to an interesting meeting a few months ago down in Tauru about the trying to get ideas on how to stop the taking so many fish, and they wanted to modify the quota limits, the size and the number of fish taken, and how to stop the degradation of the ocean. And it was really interesting, because I hadn't spoken to a lot of the commercial type guys down here, just being a recreational fisherman. So I just fish to get something to eat. Like I'll get 3 snapper, and that'll be more than enough. But talking, and so I'd been quite against the deep sea fishing competitions that they have and that. But talking to the guys in the club was very enlightening. They said, well, we caught 100. There was 100 boats in this last competition, and they only brought in 2 marlin, and they tagged and released all the rest of them, and and they don't have prizes for the most fish you can get, the biggest.
Right.
Blah, blah, blah. They have spot prize, and they have a different prize structure so as not to encourage taking too much. So that was really good for me to hear, that there is quite a consciousness within the commercial fishing industry they want to preserve it as much as we do, because they're cutting their own throats if they take too much. So that was good.
Ross, how do you because you just said it, that is not your thing. You usually go, you catch some fish and you eat it, But why do you think people are so into the sports part of it? I don't see the point, of catching it and releasing it. I don't eat fish anyway, but I'm at that stage in life that I understand that some people around the world, they rely on that. If you take the fishing out of them, they just don't survive. I wish we were in a system where things are more sustainable. So you have your own cow, chicken, whatever, and then you go and you fish, as you said, you catch what you need. Why do you think this is such a big thing in our culture, to just go in there, catching it, release it? I don't know. Is it a sports thing?
I think it's a sport which is quite addictive. For me, it's not a sport, but I can understand how people, I guess when I look at myself, like I catch and release too. Like I'll go trout fishing or something and catch and release. So there's a certain excitement. There's the excitement of and the anticipation of waiting there, and then suddenly this fish takes your line, it's screaming out and it's jumping, and there's a hell of an excitement there.
Right.
And so, I can totally understand why people do it as a sport. But for me, the concept of it as a sport's now that I'm older too, I suppose I'm not so. I got other things to excite me.
Right.
Like gardening.
Oh man. Oh yes. Let's talk about gardening.
Gardening. Oh God. Gardening.
From the sea to the garden.
Yeah, well, they're both a garden, aren't they?
Oh man. Yeah. Oh, yes, definitely. You gave me one of the most yummy mushrooms that I had, coming from a bark, coming from a trunk of tree.
Oh.
That it was, remember that?
Yeah,
that was
I
just
do.
sitting.
Kikurage, it's called.
Kikurage.
It's called wood ear. Yeah.
Wood ear. Yes, that's right.
Yeah, most Kiwis wouldn't eat it actually. It's because my partner's Japanese. She knew what it was, and it grows on it. Oh, I shouldn't be telling everybody, otherwise it'll all be gone.
Well, man,
but
I don't remember what it is.
I'm quite happy to share it. If you see on a fallen log, a rotting log, you see these a fungus which is growing, which is kind of curly and dark brown and quite dry when it's not raining. When it rains, it swells up, and it's called in Japan kikurage, which is translated as wood ear.
Would you?
Which and it's not that tasty, but the texture of it is really nice.
The texture is nice,
Texture's
and you can
really
play with
nice.
it. That's the cool thing.
You can have it for salads, or you can
Yes.
deep fry, you can stir fry, or whatever. Yeah,
I think that's what got me. I was like, oh, this has nice texture, so you can just season it and make it nice.
yeah.
Similar with like tofu and those things. A lot of people say, oh, there's no flavor, and I'm like, well, I don't see people eating meat just like straight up.
Yeah.
Like you always season it, so
Yeah.
you might as well do that with mushrooms and.
Yeah.
But a lot of mushrooms, they're yummy. Just to
mushrooms
go
are yum. Yeah. I remember during lockdown, one of our rituals was just doing a morning walk down to the beach and doing a loop and coming. And I'd come back with half a kilo of mushrooms every time, just growing wild on the roadside. Or it was cool.
Do you know the ones, the right ones to pick? Like in New Zealand, is it easy to spot edible ones?
I know ones which are safe.
Okay.
I see a lot of other ones which I wouldn't know whether they're safe or
Okay.
not, and I probably wouldn't take them.
Leave it alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not like the blue ones in Bali, but
Right. Okay. Those ones is up to you, right? It's
no, yeah, you had to be careful in Bali because they had these blue mushrooms, and
Is it the ones that they make cocktails with it? Cocktail mushroom
yeah,
cocktail.
probably. But they had in the old days in 1973, it wasn't actually illegal, and some of the restaurants would just have mushroom omelette up on their menu, and so you'd order an omelette and they'd be free range eggs, so they'd be as orange as anything, and with these bright blue mushrooms sticking out of them.
Wow.
And
You would be in the restaurant forever. You would never.
well, some people who didn't know what they were would have got a shock, I think. But no, I know the ones that are safe here.
Did you develop some passion towards knowing about fungus and different herbs and plants? Because you went to Japan, right? You spent some time in Japan.
I spent a couple of years in Japan.
Did you learn a lot there about all the types of food? And
I didn't have a garden. Did I have a garden? No, I didn't have a garden in Japan, actually, because you live in a very small area, small apartments, small everything. And so we never had land there. But of course, I was married to a Japanese, and so I heard, I had a lot of experience of Japanese food.
and the markets and everything, the diversity is just beautiful, right?
All the even the supermarkets have just got this amazing variety of food there. It's just it's one of the reasons that you go to Japan for sure is the food. And Japan's a strange country because it's got 125 million people, which means per head of population related to the land area, it's about 30 people. And if you can imagine in New Zealand, if there were 30 people for every one person here. So there'd be 30 Aucklands, 30 Wellingtons, 30 Christchurches, and all in the same land area. So it's pretty packed, but it's only packed around the coastal areas where it's flat, and the centre of Japan is quite mountainous, and it's beautiful. It's just mountainous, and it's covered in forest, and it's got little villages, and it's just a wonderful place. Yeah, and the people are just so generous and kind, and well mannered.
I spent 3 weeks there, almost 2 weeks and a half. Yeah. So I got that. I was like, oh, okay, this is nice. It was crazy in places like what was the name? Sujunku, the one in Tokyo. Shinjuku. Yeah, say it again, please.
Shinjuku.
That's the one. Yes, in Tokyo, right? And like those streets, they're like, whoa, like a little bit worse than Brazil. You know, like crowded. And just insane. And I'm like, wow. And pollution, like in any other city, of course, you know, like it was beautiful, the thing with the bikes, the tradition of having lots of bikes.
That was right everywhere.
That was great. But just this thing of like, whoa, so high populated. It's packed, man. I
remember seeing a restaurant in Shinjuku area where the waiters were all robots, so you could
only way to keep up with the chaos, put a robot.
Just so they had robots waiting on you. So that was interesting. But I'd love to go back to Japan. It's an awesome place.
Would you live there?
Well, I did live there
again.
For
like
why not? Yeah, I could live there. Yeah, my partner Sumi, she's from Nara, which is it's a countryside area.
Is it the one with the deers?
Yeah, that's right. It's got the deer park, all the deers just walking around trying to steal your food.
So cool, eh?
Yeah, that's cool, isn't it?
Yes, there's all this respect towards the deers.
Yeah, they really respect them.
Yeah.
Kind of like the cows in India. You know, you can't hurt them.
Can run over them, eh?
No.
Run over your neighbor, not the cow. Yeah, there are other people you can do things with. Did you spend some time in Nara when you were there?
A little bit, yeah. No, she lived in her parents live in a small town outside Nara, but we went up into the mountains in a place called Yoshino, and that was awesome. It was just mountains with forest and little villages and beautiful crystal clear streams running through it and trout and all just lovely. Yeah. And I remember going to a restaurant, a okonomiyaki restaurant, which is okonomiyakis are like an omelette with vegetables, with prawns and cabbage and stuff in it. And they're really yum. And this old couple had this little restaurant, and the old guy, he saw this gaijin. Gaijin is like you or me, you know, foreigners going to Japan. He saw this gaijin coming in with the Japanese, and he kind of looked at me out of the side of his eye, and we sat down. And then I started chatting away. My Japanese is very limited, so I had to, Sumi had to translate. But he got really open and started talking about his life, and he had been a builder of temples in Japan, and in Japan they used to build the temples with no nails, no bolts, nothing. They just used to cut the wood so it would all fit in together. And so he this was his thing, you know. And interesting talking about and just seeing that craft, that art, you know, that these guys do. And you look at some of the temples there that are hundreds and hundreds of years old, and there's not a nail in them.
And standing there strong,
surviving earthquakes, you know, just brilliant.
Yeah, the attention to details was something that I really appreciated seeing that, you know, even the way that they sweep, even the way that they do like basic
the Zen gardens.
So like, okay, take your time,
do
it well, take the time that you have to, but do it well, so you don't have to do it again. And
they do it simply but beautifully, you know, like some of the architecture is so simple, and the Zen gardens are just sand with a couple of rocks, and then, you know, as you say, the raked sand, and a tree, like a bonsai tree, just somewhere just beautifully placed, and Yeah, it's a wonderful place.
You
There's
met?
al-
No, you go. Sorry.
There's also the ability to not see things. Like I remember a lot of, quite a few times in Japan, I'd go and see a beautiful temple or something, and there's a Coke machine sort of stuck on the side of it.
Yeah, the mix.
Yeah.
The mix of
and just that is, but it's a great place. Yeah.
You mentioned the language. You mentioned that you said that your Japanese is quite limited.
Yeah.
Did you ever get into learning all the language? Like, did you actually engage that you went for it?
Yeah, no, I enrolled in fourth form Japanese correspondence school Japanese years and years ago. So I completed fourth form and fifth form, but I was a lazy student actually.
I was about to ask what does it mean to have that qualification that you can ask for food and find
I can do that. Actually, it was quite good because those just 2 short years of correspondence school, it gave the basics of the grammar structures of sentences. And so I could use a structure and bring different situations into that structure, and so I was kind of, as I say, I was a lazy student, and I can listen to Japanese people talking, and I can guess a lot of what
context, a little bit of context,
and a few words that's thrown in, and so I can understand basic Japanese. But
what about reading?
I learnt one alphabet called hiragana.
Right. Yeah.
But they've got 3, unfortunately, and the kanji has got I don't know how many thousand characters, and impossible to even think about.
Is the one that you said the one that the children learn first? Is that the one? I always forget
probably,
the names.
Yeah, I think so. They learn hiragana, and then katakana is to deal with English names or European sort of sounds.
Adaptability, eh?
And then kanji is like the old Chinese characters, and just they look like hieroglyphics.
Yeah.
So I could never learn to actually read unless it was hiragana. I can identify characters and read some words, but no.
Language is fantastic, eh? Isn't it a thing when you start to get into it, and your brain just starts to do crazy things, right? And I was listening to Mark Zuckerberg, the guy from Facebook, on a show, on a podcast. The name of the host is Alex Friedman, very smart guy, like a Russian guy. And he was asking about, because nowadays Google translates everything very well. It's not like perfect, but it's very good. It's super loyal to what's happening. And the guy was asking him, how far is it going to take for 2 people that don't speak the language at all to engage on a conversation? And of course, he couldn't say when, because there's obviously a lot of mistakes. People don't speak the language perfectly. You always carry a little bit of accents, a little bit of changes here, but he was very optimistic about this barrier being broken sometime soon. Do you think this teaching language career might become obsolete sometimes? How do you see this evolution of language and the way that we relate to it changing?
Well, I worked for a language school for 25 years, and our motto was learning by doing. And it was interesting just seeing the different students that would come along, and some of them would really relate to our motto, and they would realize that you learn English even while you're not learning it. It goes in there just by staying with the host family, and you're totally immersed in English all the time, 24 hours a day, and that's totally necessary to become proficient, I think. But some of the I know some of the European students, like from Switzerland or Germany or somewhere like that, would want more structure. They would want more textbook stuff and grammar and the structure and this tense, where does that go, and where does this preposition fit, and they'd want to know it intellectually. Whereas a lot of the others would just come along and they would immerse themselves in activities that we had, like surfing and like pottery and art and all the rest of it. And their English would just take off, you know. Like, it would depend on the person too. I remember one Japanese guy came, and he was one of our first students, and he could say hello. And then yes, he could say, and that was about it. And any question you'd ask, he'd just say yes, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And then after like probably a year in New Zealand, he was very, very good, and he ended up getting together with one of our Swiss students and going over and marrying her. And his English, he went and came and went a couple of times, so it was a few years actually by the time he met the Swiss girl, and his English was almost like a Kiwi.
Really?
Yeah. And he married the Swiss girl and lived in Switzerland, and he still lives in Switzerland. And people ring him up, and he speaks Swiss German to them over the phone, and they think he's a Swiss, and he's Japanese. And he was the kind of guy whose ability to learn a language was just natural and came very quickly. And then other ones, and depends on age too. Like some of the older students found it very difficult to pick up. I had one old guy who used to come every single year from Japan, and he was, even after 7 years of coming, he was still in the beginner's class.
Not working. Wow.
So you know, he just came for the social aspect and the communication, and he just loved it. You know, just coming and mixing with young students from all over the world, and the actual. Our main rule was English only, and the teachers had to police it, and we didn't mind policing it. You know, like it wasn't like in Waiheke High School where I was a teacher and we had to police a school uniform, and I just was not interested in saying you got the wrong uniform, you're not allowed to wear those bloody earrings, da da da. But we used to police this English only, like policemen, you know.
Yeah.
And most of the students were very supportive of that. And there was the odd one who would be sort of, you know, chatting in their own language in the lunch hour and things like that. But doing that, and you have, like, sometimes we had 10 different nationalities in the school. So you'd have 10 different nationalities all conversing in English because nobody understood Korean or German or Swiss German or whatever language it was. So that was a really good rule to have.
Do you have or did you have, when you were learning Japanese, do you remember coming up with a system for yourself, like a organization mode in your brain? Like, was it more about repetition, or you were kind of like, some people think about a story and they relate words that they know with sounds that they learn from a different language? Do you remember having some tricks or?
Yep. I had I'd learn a structure like Tokyo. Oh, now I can't even remember. Tokyo kara Osaka made wa 3 jikan karuma de kakarimasu, which means it takes 3 hours by car to get from Osaka to Tokyo. And so I had that sort of it takes, and then I could insert a time, like 5 days, and I could swap around the places, and I could swap around the transport sort of mode. So I'd sometimes learn just a basic structure and then bring different situations into it. And then I remember teaching vocabulary, and sometimes it's good to have an image in your mind. Like I'd illustrate it by teaching the word for nurse in Japanese, and the word for nurse was kangofu. So I draw a mountain with a tunnel through it, and it was 3 a.m. and there was no traffic, and there was a girl, a nurse, walking home after being in the hospital all day, all night, and she can go through. Kangofu can go through. So I got this image, and they can, and I used to use it for a lot of words, and I'd teach my students that method. And it took, especially the Asian students who didn't have much experience of visualization, but that was one method which you would remember the words.
Yeah.
And then there would be other things like, you want to remember a whole lot of words like, and you'd say, the cow came up to the fridge and opened the door and got the milk and put it on top of the fridge, and you'd have a sort of a series of words in sequence in this little story. So there's all kinds of little techniques we used to use for learning.
I watched a video once, those people who can memorize cards, so they have the 52 cards and then they go for it, and it was just fascinating. The lady was saying that it's something very similar to what you said, but she visualizes a town or a neighborhood that she's very familiar with, and she imagined her going around, like walking, and she looks at things. So when she's checking the cards, she thinks about something that relates to that card straight away, and paints a picture. Like I'm walking, I can see the pink horse, whatever, and then she thinks about like the letter P, and like always to relate to something in front of her. So she makes like a movie in her mind, and she makes sure that to make it like very bright, colorful, and as much nonsense as she can. So it sticks to her mind. So she said, it's like a psychedelic trip that I think of, and then I try to remember all of that, so I can associate what I put in my mind to the cards.
Wow.
But imagine how long that would be, to imagine a whole neighborhood. And she's like, it has to be something that you're very familiar with, the place where you grew up.
That's right.
And I might go inside a house, and when I go inside the house, I look at details in the house. I'm like, wow, that's discipline just there. But it shows how we're all capable of doing. That's the beauty of the thing for me. When I see someone doing something amazing, I'm like, cool. I don't know if I'll ever do that, but it's cool to know that I can, because if someone else can, it means that our brains are.
Yeah, well, some people can remember what they did on the 17th of January in 1993.
How good is your how do you consider how good is your memory? There you go. Well, you're telling awesome stories, and you're giving us some details.
Yeah, I don't know. My recent memory is not good, but my long-term memory is reasonable. Like sometimes, I can't even remember yesterday where I was or what I did.
Right.
But I can remember, way back in my old days when I went traveling and stuff like that. So
selective memory, maybe.
It can be selective. Yeah.
I remember when
I try to be honest.
That's good.
Selective memories a bit can be a bit sort of white lie-ish.
Yes. When I went back to Brazil after 6 years, my grandfather. So my dad was always saying, "Oh, you gotta go see your grandfather. Like he's not listening very well. Like he's having some hearing issues, and sometimes he forgets stuff. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. I'll remember that. And then like we were having lunch and everybody was going crazy, talking loud, and he was close to me, and we had this awesome conversation, and he was listening to everything, and he was replying to everything, and I was like, okay, there might be some selective hearing just right in front of me, like I would be the same, man, if the whole family is going crazy, making a lot of noise. I don't know what you guys are talking about. Just carry on.
Yeah, so, you were new, so he was probably really interested in it. Yeah.
He was like, let's see what's happening there.
Yeah.
Were you good at listening to your parents?
I was good at hearing my parents.
Oh, they're talking. Okay.
But like acting on their recommendations, or if that's what you call listening. I remember my mother, she was, I didn't have that greater relationship really with mum, but and I always thought, she's just bloody mum, but she had some good advice for me, which at the time I didn't actually take, And I look back on it now, I thought, yeah, you were quite wise, you were quite onto it. So, yeah, I could hear them, but sort of didn't really listen that well, especially with my father's side of the family being professionals and all their friends being professionals, and getting quite a lot of pressure to go into that lifestyle. And you could be an accountant and drive around the sports car, blah blah blah. So no, I didn't really listen to that stuff.
Good on you. That's great selective hearing for sure.
Yeah, it was.
I know that you write for our local magazine, which is pretty good, for the Seagull, which is pretty cool. Do you like? Of course, you like that, but like, is it something that you've been practicing for a long time? Did you always have journals and diaries? Like, was it always a present thing for you?
No, actually, I've always enjoyed writing, but it's never been. I haven't done much of it since I was probably at school. But when the Seagull first came out, I read Ayana's ramblings. Oh no, my one's ramblings. Musings of a 20-something-year-old. And I thought, wow, they're really cool. It's really nice to hear what the younger generation is into and what they're about.
Shout out to Ayana, by the way, in Antarctica.
Yeah, total shout out.
Yeah.
She's just come back from. I think she's back now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Cool, great,
Yeah,
cool.
So I thought, so I said to Deli, you've got the musings of a 20-something-year-old. Why don't you have the ramblings of a 70-year-old?
Yeah.
She said, all right, write me an article and we'll have a look. So so I wrote her an article. I think it was about memory, actually, come to think of it.
I think I read that one.
Yeah,
yes.
or lack of.
Yeah.
And so she liked it, so she gave me a monthly slot on the Seagull. So, and I love it. It's just it's amazing what you can drag up from your past when you think about it. Things that I'd forgotten for years, and then suddenly I've got to write about traveling or whatever it is, and you think about what you've been through, and it's fun.
Do they brief you, or do they give you like a theme that the magazine is taking?
No, I've got total freedom of what I write about. So I think the last one was about coming to the Coromandel, and the next one's going to be about surfing. Next two are going to be about surfing.
Right. The April one, the one that is coming.
I think they're going to be doing them bi-monthly, every 2 months now,
cool.
not every 1 month. So I don't know when it's going to come out, maybe May. So yeah, that's cool. I really enjoy it. It's haven't written for years really, but I love it.
And it's a cool group, eh? The Seagull put a nice group of people together.
They've got a great little magazine going. I read it from cover to cover, every one that comes out, and just learning. You learn about the people in the community that are here, and it's great. I love it.
What about your reading habits? Do you read books? Are you into?
Yeah. I do read a lot of books actually. I just the one of the latest ones I read was called The Navigator, and it was about the old Pacific navigators in the Polynesian islands, and how they could sail from one island to another, 1,000 kilometres away, and the island's only a kilometre long and 2 metres above sea level, and they can hit it without any instruments.
Wow.
And, which they go by the stars, of course, and also the temperature of the water, the colour of the water, the shape of the waves, the currents, and these old guys could just get there,
Much more in touch with nature, right?
Oh, totally in touch with the ocean. Yeah, just totally. They just knew what they were doing,
Is there anything that is intriguing for you about like old civilizations or things that humans have done? They were like, how come? How did we?
Yeah, that. I mean,
that is one. That's a huge one.
That's like Captain Cook. I mean, he was probably one of the best, English navigators there's ever been, and he could find his way from England down here and map New Zealand, but he did have instruments. He had chronometers and sextants, stuff like that, So and these guys had nothing. they just got in their canoe with their waka with the sails and took off, and they knew where they were going
And made it, right?
and made it. Yeah. Other things, other cultures. Oh, there was things I think in Bali and Indonesia which were interesting. Just there's a lot of magic there. I think there's a lot of black. I didn't experience any of the magic stuff that happened, but I had friends who did, and there was things that happened there that were, what we would call physically impossible, but
supernatural. Like what? Do you remember anything specifically? They were like, come on.
Oh, there was what was the story I heard? One of the guys started up a surf camp, and there was a few people that were not happy about the surf camp being put there, and there was some supernatural sort of stuff happened, that because there's sorcerers and stuff like that up there that I don't know about that, so I don't really want to know about that stuff anyway.
Right.
But I heard stories, that bad things happened, and so there's probably white and black magic up there too, I'd imagine. Yeah.
Well, our brains are so powerful, like and we are energy, some people talk about like spirituality, and you gotta separate things. Like we have energy. That's how we live, right?
That's right.
Like we are connected and wired to this thing called Earth, and everything is kind of like bonded there together. So
I had one experience actually when I think about it, which was probably a dark energy. I'm still not sure actually, but I was talking to an old friend of mine, and at the time I'd been going to a parapsychology school in Auckland, and parapsychology is about sort of the supernatural and auras and all that stuff.
Wait, how did you get into that?
I don't know. I just went to the parapsychology
You just
school
saw the
and got
ads.
into it.
Oh,
yeah.
okay, cool.
I was interested in sort of esoteric stuff.
Cool.
So I went to this parapsychology school, and they taught you how to look at auras, and there was another thing called, I think they called it transfiguration or something like that, where you looked at a person's forehead and put your eyes slightly out of focus, and then sometimes that their whole face would change, and like some kind of other being or energy was there. Anyway, I went down and talked to my friend Mary, who was interested in this stuff, and I sort of started to look at her forehead, and her whole face changed, and I thought, oh yeah, that's interesting. It's
and you didn't take anything. You didn't have any substances or anything. It was nothing was attached to that. No.
I hadn't taken any drugs or alcohol, nothing for years.
Wow.
And her face had changed, and I thought, wow. And then suddenly I felt this physical pressure, like 10 tons of weight was pushing me through the floor. And I remember our parapsychology teacher said, if you get into trouble, just call out to God for help, and say, help. So I thought, shit, I'm going to go through the floor here, and this was real force, it wasn't just an imagination, it was full on real thing. And I thought, oh, God help me, come on, come on, I don't want to go through this.
God damn, can't believe I'm going to have to.
Yeah.
Shit.
Oh man. So anyway, and as soon as I did that,
did God help?
Yeah.
Shout out to God.
I don't know if it was
you.
God or who helped, but anyway, the heavy force disappeared, and I thought, oh God, thank God for that. Thank God again. I'm not religious, by the way, and then I said to Mary, I said, did you feel that? And she said, what? Did you see what was happening to me? No, not really. I thought, so I told her, and I told her about this face that came through, and then she showed me this photo and it was her mother, and her mother had committed suicide, and
Oh wow! Whoa.
she'd and the face was like very similar to the photo that she showed me of her mother. I don't know whether it was her mother or not coming through. I just don't know what that was, but it just taught me that there are sort of forces out there that you might not want to meddle with, or
Yeah.
and of course there's the other side of it, which is, well, I mean, we're here and we've got abundance. We've got shelter, good health, and I'm sure there's a higher force there too. So
Did you carry on with the course?
no,
no, that was it.
After that, I thought I don't really need to get involved with that stuff. I don't need to go there.
Yeah, you said you're not a religious person. Were you ever though?
I got into more spiritual things, and I chased around after different religions, like the Hare Krishnas and the Children of God and all. When you're young, you kind of go through a whole lot of spiritual sort of seeking and stuff like that, and but I never felt that I could actually join any of them. So, and then one day I was just sitting on the pavement in Parnell selling antiques, which was a little sideline that I had going in those days, and this lady came up and wanted to buy a little fire screen that I had then. She said, "Could you bring it up to my apartment when you're finished?" And I said, "Yeah, okay." So I knock on the door of her apartment. She invites me in for a cup of tea, and I was there for 8 hours and just listening to her talking, and sort of, she was a mentor. She became a mentor, and she was about as close as I got to sort of, in inverted commas, following anybody.
Right.
And she was a very, very wise woman who...
But like, she was not saying anything about your life. She was just giving...
She was just...
sharing knowledge.
Sharing knowledge. She had special... She knew things, She knew what I was thinking sometimes, which was a bit scary.
Ooh, yeah. Depending on the person. Yeah.
So that's about as close to any religion as that I ever got. I can't, because for me, religion seems to be belief, and belief is a choice of what you're going to think. So I guess I know some things. I know in my heart that things are true, but I don't believe anything is true, if you know what I mean. I don't believe that, whether it's a Christian or have faith that this is true, because it's another human's thoughts that are given to you, and maybe they're true, maybe they're not. Maybe one day some of it will, become knowledge. So the difference between belief and knowledge is important for me. I don't think I believe in anything, but I know some things.
Right. You've seen different people from different social status in your life, so I guess you kind of respect more why people get into religious beliefs, because sometimes life it's harder for them. I remember an artist saying that it's actually mean to try to get that out of people, because sometimes that's all they have.
That's right.
That kind of faith and
fear of death.
The fear of death.
You can't take that away from people.
Do you fear death?
I used to think, no, I'm not afraid of death, but then I got into a situation where I was faced with, I got a melanoma and waiting for test results and things like that, and then I had to think about, geez, I'm not ready. I don't want to die. So if I'm faced with it now, if I was faced with it now, I'm sure I would probably be afraid. Yeah.
Right.
But intellectually, I can understand that, death's just another step in the process, I guess. But that's what people say anyway, but I don't know, because I haven't died yet.
Yeah. And the ones who did not come back to tell us,
nobody's come back yet.
We're still waiting,
Yeah, and whether there's something after it, who knows? But no, I'm not ready yet. Got a lot more living to do. What about you? You religious?
Nah, I was brought up Catholic.
All Brazilians are, aren't they?
Big thing in Brazil, yeah. Well, now the Christian movement is that Christian? How we say it? The Christians, right? Yeah, yeah. Now there's this big wave of Christians religions kind of taking over, becoming. I'm not sure if bigger than Catholics at the moment, but kind of like.
Is that evangelical or?
Evangelical,
Yeah,
that's the
that
word.
one.
Yeah. There's actually an evangelical Brazilian church in Auckland I've seen.
Oh,
Yeah. The interesting thing in Brazil is that, at least things might have changed, but I remember it was not very common to say that you did not have a religion. It was kind of like a soccer thing, you know, like it's very weird to find a Brazilian that doesn't support a soccer team, a football team.
Okay.
You just say it, even if you don't care. You are something, you know, like you follow that team. So I remember that being very common. So like I never bought into the Catholic idea, but I was baptized. I had my first communion, you know, like, and I got into music because one of my teachers was playing at the church, and I would go more for the music, and I studied in a Catholic school, you know, so like all this influence made this happen, you know, like someone who doesn't believe at all. But that was a big thing there. Like you gotta say something. You gotta say a religion, you know, like even if you don't follow it, if you don't go for it. Which makes me think about like how strong the influence is, you know, like it seems that sometimes it just feels.
You gotta belong to a club, or
you gotta belong to a club, or like or that thing of like, oh, so what do you think is gonna happen to you if you don't believe in anything, you know? And as you just said, who cares? No one has, you know, like no one knows. You don't die and come back and say, oh, that's what happens. You might as well believe in that one. So I respect all of them, you know, like, and I have great conversations with my parents because they still go to the church, you know, like not religiously, like, oh, yeah, we gotta go, we gotta do it, but like they like it's one of those things like that make them feel better, you know, about going and praying, and sometimes my grandmother, we talk on like WhatsApp, and she's like, oh, good on you, such a hard-working man. I'm like, you have no idea. And it's just, you know, you're doing good, and I pray for you. And I'm like, if you got time, grandma, you know, like just go for it. You know, like if you got time to pray for me, I appreciate it, you know, like because that's the thing for me. It kind of every time that I come across a religious person, I shifted my mind. Like, I don't make fun of them, you know, like there was a time that I would. I was like, come on, you know, like, and nowadays it's much more like, who am I to tell, you know, like I got my beliefs, but like if that person found comfort and especially if they say something like that, you know, like, oh, I'm praying for you, I'm like, that's what I call energy, you know.
Well, your grandma's prayers worked, didn't they? She was probably praying for all goodness and
definitely, you know,
stuff to come to you, and look at you. You look pretty happy.
Oh, I look. If it's
Thank
because
you, Grandma.
If it's because of her praying, man, fuck. I hope she prays for everybody in this world. You know, I'll tell her. I start praying for more people. You know, but that's the thing. I see it as manifestation. You know, now that I'm understanding the power of the words and how what you say, you know, really becomes your thing, you know. It's like when people say, oh, I'm tired, oh, I had enough. I'm like, well, then that's it, you know. Like it's like with this project, you know, it feels like some people want me to say that I'm tired, you know, just because I got a full-time job and I'm putting all my money into this, and then, man, like, of course, body tired, you know, like the body takes it, you know, but I'm feeling great. I'm like, it's the happiest time in my life.
That's an awesome thing you're doing.
It's fun, right?
Have you found that as you've been developing it, that things have kind of fallen into place, like unexpected things sort of crop up and just, you know, become important in the development of the studio?
Yes, and a cool thing that Taylor and I had from the beginning, it was like we had the idea, we had the vision, but we also left room for things that would come, you know, like, so,
Things you didn't think about.
Yeah. So we were like, instead of worrying about things that could change, we were open for the changes, you know, and we're still keeping that very clear. So we are committing to 3 shows a week, putting all the time we have into this, because something is going to come. We don't know what it is, but because we're putting the good energy into it, it will probably be good.
You'll attract good things.
Yeah. So this is something that I think it's working for both of us. You know, like, I think if you have a plan and you have that narrow mind to your plan, if something else comes, you might miss the opportunity. It could be an opportunity, you know, but you were so attached to the plan that you didn't see that coming as a good thing.
Yeah.
So we know where we want to be, which is important, but the way that we're going to get there,
you don't know.
we're cruising, you know, there's no reason to. Well, after being in New Zealand for all this time, changing jobs, you know, like trusting people, you know, hitting my face against the wall because I trusted too much, or realizing that I should have trusted someone else, you know, like you kind of get a bit more used to those things, you know. And in Brazil, the trust system is very different, right? You've been to dodgy countries before, you said it, you know. Trusting people in a poor country is very different.
It's different.
Your life might be at risk, you know, like the money in your wallets, you know, like you don't know. You don't know. So it was a nice change of perceptions, you know, like of the way that I should operate, you know, like. So this new step of like starting a business, I always tell Taylor, I'm like, of course it's a business and there is competition involved because that's what it is, but like, let's not think about that. Let the competitors think about that.
Good attitude.
Isn't it? You know, because like then they stress. You know, there's a bit
no point in you stressing.
Man.
It's like with money. I've found like people stressing with money, and I think maybe I've been just lucky in life that I've never had to stress about money, because it's somehow not through that much effort from me.
Great.
Just come, you know, like I'd get a bill and I'd think, oh, that's a lot. How am I going to pay that? And then you'd suddenly get a tax return that you didn't realize you had, or you know, just stuff that would come without your planning it, and like you're being looked after.
Yes.
And for me, that's kind of more of a belief than a religion, or you know, just the trust that you'll be looked after.
You'll be fine, right? Yeah. I take that as religion. Let's say, let's put it that way, just to make good use of the words. You know, like I just trust, you know, destiny and whatever's gonna come. Like that thing with the good and bad, they're not forever. You know, like I try to keep that clear in my mind. You know, like this is great. Well, tomorrow, I'm not sure. Might change a little bit. Might be uncomfortable because things happen. You know, like it's like seeing pictures from my parents. You know, like and then you look and then you zoom it and then you're like, wow. You know, they're aging. You know, I'm aging. You know, like those things. I don't know. Last year they had COVID when we were in the second lockdown. That for me was a bit more intense, you know, than the first one. And then they had COVID, and my father had 25% of one of his lungs compromised.
Oh God.
Yeah, and then it's one of those things that you're like, this is real, you know, like, okay, it might be it, you know, like you kind of work on your mind to not stress too much about maybe missing someone, you know, not ever seeing them again. And you try to be comfortable with that idea. But when it comes to you, I think like you said about those experiences of like being at risk at a situation, when you like being in the water, trying to swim for 40 minutes, you know, it doesn't matter how prepared you are. In that moment, you kind of like,
oh my God.
Fuck. And then you ask for God, right? And then you go for God. So,
well, there's one of the things that that woman I was talking to you about that was my mentor. She used to quote something from, I think it was from the Bible, to be thankful for all things, whether you perceive them as good or bad. and which is a really hard thing to do. I mean, it's easy to be thankful for good things. You win the lottery. Oh, thank you.
Great,
oh,
yes.
Great. Blah blah blah. You win the rugby game or whatever. And but when terrible things happen, like your parents getting, your grandparents or your parents?
My parents.
Getting
parents.
COVID.
Yeah.
That's really hard to sort of be thankful for stuff like that, or if a child is ill, or
Yes.
that's really hard. But it's there.
Especially because when it happens. So, for example, now in New Zealand, everybody got vaccinated. Good job. So the thing hits, and like we're not carrying bodies around. People kind of take it for granted. It's easy to say, oh yeah, it's not even that strong, and you're like, yeah, of course, because people are protected. But when it happened to them, like Brazil was burying bodies like as a normal thing, and then you start to think, fuck, mom and dad might be a number, in this whole story. So that movie was playing in my mind.
Wow.
And then, but as you said, it was a good exercise to also think, okay, I need more appreciation of the time that we talk, of when we see each other.
Yeah.
And so it makes a lot of sense, right?
They become more precious for you. They become more precious for you because, you realize you might lose them soon. Could.
Sometimes we have to go through that, eh?
Yeah.
Almost losing something.
Yeah.
Some people
Before we value it.
Some people have to lose it,
Yeah.
right? Which is a hard way to
Yeah.
learn.
Yeah.
But it teaches something.
Yeah. Well, losing your own life would be for me, would be quite hard. Because then you wouldn't have any body to think.
True.
To think about these things and come on interviews and things.
I know, right? There are some videos on YouTube from people who had near to death life experiences, and it's just fascinating how they completely change their lives.
Yeah.
I don't know what happens in that second. I don't know if it's like a DMT trip. I don't know what happens to people.
What's DMT?
What is DMT? It's a psychedelic. It's a psychedelic. It's a
trip.
It's a trip. Yeah. It's I don't know much about it, but I know that it takes a very small amount of time.
Yeah.
But I haven't done it. I don't know what it is. But you hear from people that like you go to places that are just like unthinkable, but it's a very, very short periods of real time, but in your mind you just go for years. So like it makes you think about lifespan, like and how those things work. Like time for a fly is very different than for us, like and all those things, and then you think like, wow, are we in our minds? Or is there more? Is consciousness a thing that we're not even touching there yet? There's so much potential for humans to
expand the consciousness.
Expand, I love that part of nature, like and how substances and things that like we're finding out more about it. Probably all the civilizations have done an amazing job, but we just burnt the books because we're stupid, like I don't know. Yeah. But I think it's
plenty of book burning in the past, wasn't there? All through the ages. All the pagan writings and what we lost. Yeah, amazing.
What do you think about these people putting statues down from people who are like, dictators and people who are not great, but like then
Southern generals in the American Civil War and stuff like that. Yeah.
Do you have a take on that?
I haven't really. I don't know enough about it to, especially the latest ones were in America, eh?
Yes.
Like when they took down the statues in Charlottesville or somewhere of Confederate generals and stuff like that. I don't know. I don't really have any strong feeling for or against that. I mean. Yeah, I look at the wars. The war that's happening now is that's kind of confusing too, because I just don't know what's going on. I hear the media, I hear the the Western media saying all the stuff, and then you hear about Putin wanting to denazification of Ukraine, and then I look at the president of Ukraine. He's no more of a Nazi than Mother Teresa was. So it's just awful the war that's happening there. It's just horrible, and I hope it ends soon. But there's so much. I don't know. It's getting more difficult to believe anything that you hear now. So it's. I mean, I have certain sources which I consider are more unbiased than others. Like Al Jazeera and Guardian, and to some extent the BBC. But some of the others are extreme in both directions. And so it's sort of.
Have you come across Vice?
No.
VICE, Vice News. Oh, it's a platform, and now I would say I really like watching, because they usually get young people who are living the experience. So it's up to you to decide. But they're definitely there. Yeah, it's not a reporter. On top of the, the highest building there, talking like the person is there, where the conflict is happening, and they, I'd like to hear that. Yeah. Vice. Taylor and Hanako, they watch quite a lot, cool. So we can share some links.
I'll have a listen to that.
Ross, as you know, this show is live. Yeah. So we're live on YouTube and Twitch.
What's Twitch?
Oh man, it's gonna change your life. So
I'm an old guy,
So you're familiar with YouTube, right?
Oh yeah.
So
I look at YouTube a lot.
So YouTube is mainly for videos, so you can upload videos, and now you can also do what we're doing now. You can live stream. Yeah. So if you have your YouTube channel, you can just click the live, and you got a camera, and suddenly you're live. Yeah. Like we are right now. Yeah. Twitch is just for live stream. So it's a platform where people have their cameras and they're talking to the world, just like a huge open TV.
And then that's it. They don't have access to it after that, or
it stays for a very short period of time, Taylor, or it does stay. It stays for a little bit, and then it's gone. But people can monetize with that. So the more people you have watching, you get more money, and then you can ask as well. So imagine you see all sorts of things. It's pretty amazing, like for this kind of thing, like for podcasts, videocasts, because it's a great platform. Like nowadays TV, it's kind of like losing space. Like, so it's good to have that platform that you can just put your work there and build your audience. But some stuff is just like, you're like, oh, come on, man. So there's some guys, like, they put a challenge. I'm going to say Ross Liggins 100,000 times. And they think of Ross Liggins. That's enough. And I'm not joking. They have a counter. And people just comment, whoa, bro, you're still there. And then someone comments, I'm with you, man. We're on this together, and sometimes the guy's live streaming for 8 hours.
Wow, that's going to change the world.
But he's getting, I don't know, like he's
getting lots of hits,
some money and some hits, and some people find it funny.
Wow. That might be more lucrative than the gardening jobs I do.
So many things, Ross, are way more lucrative than all the things that we do together. Like if we can put them all in a basket and Twitch. Yeah.
Twitch, okay.
Twitch, man. Yeah. We can talk about Twitch more. If you want to open a channel on Twitch to talk about fishing and those things, that would be cool. But anyway, what I was saying is there's a chat. There's a live chat where people can comment or say something. Me, dude, Dan, who I don't know what it is, but he sent a cool like, Ross, yo, talk about surfing, man. Bro, what is he on about? So that's a funny comment. I don't know what part of our conversation he said that, but that's cool. I'm Mohammed Dan. Thank you, Ross, for teaching me English and surfing.
Mohammed Dan.
Yeah. there you go. One of your
Oh.
ex
Wow.
students is watching you.
Thanks, Mohammed.
Yeah, there you
Cool.
go. That's cool.
I guess you're from Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
Must be, yeah.
You've been to Saudi Arabia, right?
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah.
So we're gonna get there. I want to
Okay.
ask about that. But before, one of our loyal viewers, Gabe, he's got a question. From when you started to surf to now, does it change much? And how do you see surf in the next 25 years? So maybe we can go for that question first and then talk a little bit about Saudi
Sorry,
Arabia.
who's that from? Who's that?
It's the name of the guy. It's Gabe Althos.
Okay.
Athos. I really hope I pronounce your name right, Gabe. Gabe Athos, and he comments a lot of
Okay.
in our
Thanks
shows.
for the question, Gabe.
Yeah. So how
Um,
do you see surf, and
well,
where is it going to?
If you read the Seagull for the next two issues, you'll find that question answered. It's changed heaps, and it's always going to change. But yeah, I could go on for another 5 hours about talking how surfing has changed. But if you read the next two articles, Ross's Ramblings, it's a good
There you go.
shout out for my own stuff, isn't it?
Oh yeah. That's why we have the platform.
You'll see how surfing's changed.
Great.
The commercialization is probably the negative side for me. You know, there's soul surfing, and then there's the commercialization of surfing, which is I guess it was always inevitable. But when I was young, we used to go to a place and surf it, and we didn't have cameras, so we didn't take photos, and we didn't have any mass media to, you know, we didn't have YouTube to put it on, or Facebook to show the wicked waves we got. So we just kept it to ourselves, and so places didn't get crowded, and competitions. There were competitions, but there was, you know, it wasn't a big deal. But now things are very different. You know, places get crowded, surfers get angry, aggressive, and
It misses the point, right?
yeah, it does really, because you're out there having fun, and you're just in nature. You've got the, you know, waves around you, and the sunsets, and the negative ions from the spray, and you know, it's a very, very nice energy in the surf, or it should be, put it that way.
Should be.
It's not always though.
Your student Mohammed, he also said Dundini. I don't know if that's his name or the place where he's from. Mohammed Dundini, maybe was a nickname or something.
Yeah.
But anyway, timing. Taylor, is that what you were asking me to check for? Cool. Timing Saudi Arabia.
Saudi Arabia. Well, I got sent there by my boss Morris, who wanted me to go there and do some marketing, because he didn't have a good experience there the time before. So he sent me. So I said, "Yep, I'm on into an adventure. You know, a bit of a break from the classroom was good." So I remember landing in Dubai first, and had a day there, or a couple of days there, I think, and travelled around Dubai a bit and checked out the camels in the desert and stuff, what you do there, and the gold markets, and you know, interesting stuff like that. And then got on the plane to Riyadh, which is the capital of Saudi Arabia, and had to do a marketing workshop in Riyadh. And so we were with lots of other international people. There was one woman with our team of, I think there was about 18 of us, and one of them was a woman, and she was the first woman that had been allowed as part of the language school delegations. And so she came with us and advertised her language school, and she had to wear, you know, the long robes that she didn't have to wear a veil or anything like that, but and then after the workshop, we thought, oh, we'll all go out to dinner. So we all went out to dinner, 17 men and one woman, but unfortunately the woman wasn't allowed in the same part of the restaurant as us. So she had to go in the family part where women were allowed. So she had a bit of a solitary dinner.
Damn.
But the hospitality was really nice. They're very generous people, the Arabs, and I got taken out to a camel market where they have these just thousands of camels and they're buying and selling. Some camels are worth like $1 million.
Checking their teeth and
yeah. And I got to to ride the camel in the desert, and then got off, and the guy milked the camel, and I had to drink a bit of camel milk. And
was it yummy?
No, it was okay. But apparently it's good for your stomach, so
right, okay.
So that was good.
Good bacteria.
Yeah. And then another thing I remember was driving along. One of my students came and picked me up when I had a free day, and he was a wonderful guy, and he took me all around out into the desert and showed me stuff, and we're going along, and he had his microphone in the car from his phone on, and this female voice came on, and speaking Arabic and very sort of sexy kind of tone, speaking to my student, and he was answering back, and I thought, wow, that girl really loves you. She said, yeah, she's my girlfriend. Wow, are you going to marry her? And he said, no, I can't, because her marriage has already been organised, and I'm sort of promised to my cousins.
Oh, no.
Oh, you poor guy. Wow, and I thought, oh, man, because, there's a lot of marriage sort of quite close family. I think cousins are okay, but it's about as close as you can get. But, yeah, so that was another thing I remember.
Is that a thing with not being allowed to look at women? Is that right?
Oh, I got in trouble actually.
Hey,
in
Ross.
the market in.
Man, you were trying to look through the burqa. What were you doing? You were trying to scan the thing. Like what were you?
I was totally innocent because you can't see anything except the black. Oh, I can't even remember what it's called now. Abaya, is it?
Abaya.
Yeah. And we were
burqa? No, different, right?
I think the burqa's the total face covering,
right.
but in the Riyadh markets they didn't. The women wore the head to heel sort of covering. But I was just walking along with my student friend, and I looked down some stairs to the lower floor of the shopping mall, and there happened to be some women there just looking in a shop, and I wasn't looking at them actually, and I was just kind of gazing down there, and this guy comes up and don't look at my student translated. He said, oh, you're not supposed to be looking at the woman. I thought, oh, okay, sorry. And then so anyway, then he took us to a big mosque because he had to do his prayers. He said, oh, you just sit over there and I'll just go into the mosque and do the prayers, and then we'll
don't look at the women.
He didn't say that, but I sat down anyway, just sitting there and looking at the big courtyard and the mosque, and unfortunately, this guy starts to come over to me, and he's got this machine gun in his hand, and he says, "Get up!" And I could tell by what his gestures were saying, "Get up! Don't sit on that bench." I thought, oh, and he pointed along there about 30 meters. There was a woman and some kids sitting there, and I wasn't actually supposed to be sitting on a bench because I don't know why, but anyway, the machine gun won the battle.
Well, yeah, as it would.
Yeah. So, but there's good things and there's scary things and things that are different culturally and things that I wouldn't want to live in that culture. I don't think for very long. And you couldn't have any beers. There was no drinking. Although actually. We had one function in the New Zealand Embassy, and the New Zealand Embassy in a foreign country is actually part of New Zealand.
Hey,
yeah,
nice New Zealand.
So they had a nice bar there, and so we were all there drinking, and all the Saudi agents and people that came along, they'd come in, and the first thing they'd do was straight over to the bar.
Straight to the bar.
Yeah. Yeah, because they're not allowed to do it in their own culture, but I'm sure they do. I mean, some of my students would say, "Oh yeah, we have parties. We go over to Dubai and bring back whiskey and whatever."
Nice. Just some shisha, maybe just some smoking.
I tried shisha. I went to the student took me to what they called a nightclub, and I thought, "Oh, that's good, bit of dancing and a few girls around." But
Nah.
No, it was about
Shisha.
50 couches, all sitting in a circle out in the open, with TV screens above them and big shisha pipes, and that was a nightclub. And it was all guys, and they were watching soccer, European soccer, and smoking shisha.
Men playing soccer.
Men,
obviously.
yeah. Just men. Yeah. So yeah, it was interesting.
So you missed New Zealand. Or Japan, maybe Japan. You missed Japan.
Yeah, no, it was nice to get out and drink a few cold beers when I came home.
Nice, that's good.
Yeah, but Saudi, my students were great. I think I probably only had in my whole career probably 6 or 7 female Saudi students, and they were great too. They were just like so happy to be in a foreign country, but they always came with their brother or a male accompanying them. But yeah, it was good. It was good talking to them. But they had to be careful what they said though, because the brother would be in the class with them, and sometimes there was more strict stuff going on, like the woman would only be allowed to go into a class with other women. So there was all different levels of obeying the cultural sort of norms that are. Even
when you're not in your country, you still stick to that. And
they were pretty strict with the male-female thing. Yeah, had one Saudi girl who came to our school in Auckland. This was about 6 or 7 years ago, and she was very vivacious and she was beautiful. She was about 20 maybe, and she just wore jeans and just Western clothes and nothing on her head. And she was supposed to be there for a month or something. She lasted about 5 or 6 days and then disappeared.
Wow.
Because I think they have Saudi like
spies
or police in Auckland where they just control the behaviour of students and things. But I think that's what we think happened anyway, because we never heard what happened to her.
Wow.
So, but interesting.
Interesting times, eh?
Yeah. Interesting culture. Well, their government was at one time was paying for a lot of their young people to go out and learn about the world and be educated overseas. I remember that. Yep. And they'd pay the. I remember some of our students would be getting all their airfares and all their homestay and all their tuition paid, and plus they'd get like $800 a week for pocket money. So
not bad.
They were quite flush.
Not bad.
Not bad. Yeah.
I remember having the wave of Saudi Arabians and then stopping. And one of my friends said, the government just...
Yeah, they stopped the funding.
Not doing it anymore.
Yeah. Interesting country. Yeah.
Have you got something for us, Taylor? How is our live stream going? Are you having fun? Good? Yeah? Nice. Would you like to ask Ross a question before we wrap it up? It's your chance.
No, thank you.
You can ask me something about Hanako.
No? No?
No, he knows everything about her. He knows much more about her than I do.
I know, right?
That's my daughter.
Yeah. He was all worried today, Ross.
Was he?
He's like, oh, man, Ross be here.
Really?
No.
I'm not that scary, I don't
But Hanako came here to make sure that the studio was looking good. She was like, that's coming, so let's make sure that everything is all right.
Good. Good.
So I think we did a good job, I hope.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's looking beautiful. Really good.
Well, we could be here for a long time, but we're going to save this chat and do it again in the future, because that's the beauty of the show. We can do whatever we want. So
cool.
It would be a pleasure to have you back at some stage.
That'd be great. I didn't know what I was going to talk about here. I thought, gosh, I hope I don't run out of topics, but you were pretty good at eliciting information from me. That was good.
Thank you. And I think we just scraped the top of it. I think that there's a lot. That's what I'm saying. Like that there's room for much more.
Yeah.
We also had a little problem in the beginning with the internet. So if people is watching, it starts in the middle of nowhere again, because we lost the first 10 minutes, just to let people know.
But then it was okay, the live stream and the video?
Yeah, it's just that first 10 minutes was missing.
Yeah. So for the people who sometimes people say that, oh, something happened with the beginning. We rely on the internet
Yeah.
of the place. However, the audio of all the interviews, they are stored
Yeah.
in our desk, in our
Okay.
mixing desk. So tomorrow this show goes into all the podcast platforms. So if people missed the start of the show and YouTube didn't save the first 5 minutes or whatever, it will be on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, so people can listen to the whole thing. Yeah.
Cool.
Technology, eh?
Also,
Technology.
Dandini said any other countries. I didn't understand much well, but he said, "Don't worry, Ross. I carry your legacy. Bless you."
Oh, he's carrying your legacy, man. Whatever you taught him,
Oh.
you must have taught well,
Oh, that's good.
because
I hope legacies are good.
I hope so too.
Is that a good word? It's not a swear word, is it?
Nah, it's a good one. But yeah, oh, cool, great chat. So we've been here for pretty much 2 hours and 15
we
minutes.
already?
That's crazy,
Wow.
yeah.
Oh, that went quick.
Yeah,
Quickly, I mean. Sorry.
it's a welcoming space. So for the people that I'm reaching out and I'm a bit worried about coming and having a chat with Leo, time flies, right? So
Oh, time flies.
we
yeah,
have fun
totally.
here.
Leo was very, very easy to talk with. Yeah, awesome.
Nice.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
So we get to know a little bit more about your adventures on Seagull Magazine.
Yeah.
And do you still do something with the fishing reports or the weather? I remember listening to something. Are you still doing that or no? Not anymore.
No, that was the fishing report.
Yeah.
That was the tongue-in-cheek fishing report.
Right.
I never got invited back for that one.
Ah, damn.
I was hoping I could get a nice, weekly spot and get paid mega dollars and retire properly.
ALTBAYS might do something for
ALTBAYS.
you, man.
Oh, great.
Okay, we see the potential. Watch out, Seagull.
Yeah.
We're all about collaboration, as we always say. So there's space for everyone, right?
Good one.
So we're live every Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays at 7 p.m. And then these videos become available on YouTube as soon as it's finished, as soon as our live stream is finished. And as I just said before, you can find these shows on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all the main podcast platforms. So yeah, download this show, send it to your friends, to your family. Ross is going to share the link so all his friends can say, that story was not exactly like that.
That's right. I'll probably disagree. I'll probably get sued.
Yes. So don't sue ALTBAYS. You go after Ross. No, Ross.
Yeah, you won't be able to get much money out of me, I can tell you that.
There you go. You're just going to get a laugh out of Ross.
Yeah, I'll take you surfing though.
There you go. Thank you so much, my friend.
Thanks, Leo.
What a pleasure.
Thanks, Taylor.
Thank you.
Great job you guys are doing.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks, Taylor.
Thank you, man. Have a good night.
I'll see you guys on Monday. It's a cool week coming up, so stay tuned. Peace.
ALTBAYS.